The Rambam tells us in Mitzvah Commandment 213, and similarly in Negative Commandment 355, says the Rambam that there's a mitzvah for a man to marry a woman. He bases this on the pasuk and the verse in Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse number 1. It says there, Ki yikach ish, when a man will take a woman, implying that there has to be some sort of an acquisition. And this is done through betrothal and through a ketubah that he writes for his wife. Furthermore, the Rambam goes on to say in Negative Commandment 355 that one is not allowed to have intimacy without the ketubah, without kiddushin betrothal. And it goes on to say in Deuteronomy 23, verse number 18, says the Rambam from this verse, it says, Lo yisiya kedesha mimneis Yisrael, that the daughters of Israel shall not be a harlot. And from here he derives that therefore one who does have intimacy without the betrothal, without marriage, violates this negative commandment, and therefore it's punishable by lashes. The Rambam goes on to say that even though the Torah tells us that if a person seduces a woman or he has a date rape, that he has to give a fine to this girl, implying that this is based on a monetary stipulation, and one can redeem themselves through this penalty of money. Says the Rambam that this is only a one-time act. It was done through a mistake, but that not one has no right to initiate such a thing, primarily as a priori based on a monetary worth or a monetary acquisition. On the contrary, by doing so, one is practicing the act of harlotry, and therefore one violates the negative commandment, which is punishable by lashes. This is the practical mitzvah al pi pshat, and the simple interpretation. What is the remez, the hint? We know that we are told that the Jewish people at Sinai were betrothed by God through Kiddushin. And when Mashiach will come, it will be the ultimate erusin, the ultimate marriage between God and the Jewish people. The Rebbe writes in Hayom Yom, the 28th of Tishrei, that God, being our husband, is obligated to give us food and sustenance. And that is the ring that God puts upon our fingers, His commitment and responsibility to provide for us and to take care of us. And we in return, as a faithful wife, we perform our duties. And that is the 613 commandments of the Torah and the study of the Torah itself. What is the drush? What is the homiletics? If you look into the Rambam, we don't find that there's an obligation to put a ring on the woman's finger. On the contrary, the Gemara says you can marry a woman through giving her money. And that's the way you marry a woman, bekesef, or shtar, or a document, or intimacy, for the sake of marriage. And today, the law is that it must only be done through kesef, through money, and as the Ramah brings down in Even Ezer, chapter 27, he concludes by saying, V'yesh noegin, today the custom is l'kadesh, to marry a woman b'taba'as, with a ring. V'yesh lehem tam b'tikunei zoyar, and this has reasons found in the writings of the Zohar. But yet the Rambam does not bring this down at all. And the question is, what is the reason of pi halacha, according to Jewish law, why must a man give his wife a ring in order to marry her? And furthermore, why is it that the Rambam does not mention this at all in his Sefer Hayat, in his book of laws? And the Rebbe explains this based on a Rogat Shavar. And he says, when you give a woman money for the sake of betrothal, it has to be in a way that the money belongs entirely to the woman. and the man has no right over whatsoever. But if the man does not give the woman total control over that money, it is not kosher for the sake of marriage. Nowadays, betrothal and marriage take place together under the chuppah. So, the only thing that divides betrothal and marriage is simply the reading of the ketubah and a blessing over the cup of wine, which is a few moments. In other words, because betrothal and marriage take place together, if you gave a woman money, $1, $100 under the chuppah, and then right after that, right after betrothal, you marry her, now, because you're married, it's like having a joint bank account. So already she does not have full control over the money, and she never had the opportunity to benefit from that money. And therefore, the halacha is that you cannot give money to marry a woman today. However, says the Rebbe, a ring you could, because a ring is a levush, a ring is a garment. And therefore, by giving her a garment, and she takes the garment and she puts it on her finger, she uses the garment, she now becomes married to the husband because of the value of the garment. And furthermore, even though you can say that they have a joint account, but over here the fact is that being that she has the ring on her finger, the husband cannot put the ring on his finger at that moment, and therefore she has total benefit from the ring. Furthermore, based on the verse in the Torah, a man is not allowed to wear the garment of a woman. He's not allowed to put her finger. He's not allowed to use the ring from her finger if it's a garment. And therefore, he does not have any benefit from it. And she has total benefit over that ring. And therefore, today, according to Jewish law, we use a ring over money. And this, says the Rebbe, explains another interesting detail. And that is, if we marry a woman through giving her a ring, why can't you take the ring and drop it into her hand? Why must you put it on her finger? And the Rebbe explains that we find in a Tosefta, in the Tractate of Kedushin, chapter 2, it says there that if one marries a woman with a garment, the marriage does not take effect until the woman has benefit from the garment. And therefore, because she needs to have benefit from the garment, the chatan, the groom, puts the ring on her finger, and now she has benefit from it, and the kedushin, the betrothal, is kosher. If he put it, however, into her hand, she cannot benefit from the garment, because the ring is meant to be worn. You don't benefit from holding a ring in your hand. And that is why the halacha is, the law is today, that one must marry through a ring. What is the soid? What is the esoteric level? The Talmud says that you can acquire a woman in 3 different ways, as we stated earlier, through money or a contract or intimacy. However, a woman acquires herself back on 2 levels, or in 2 ways. And that is through a bill of divorce or through the death of the husband. Why is it that she gets married through 3 different ways, but she gets divorced only by 2 different ways? According to Kabbalah, the number 3 represents the world of tikkun, the world of fixing. And we know before one gets married, they're living in the world of chaos. God did not create the world for chaos, but rather He created the world for one to live in the world and to sustain the world. That is through marriage and children. So we say that before marriage, one is living in a world of chaos. After marriage, one is living in the world of tikkun, in the world of fixing and the world of refinement. According to Kabbalah, this world of fixing and the world of refinement is made up of 3 pillars. And therefore it has sustainability. In contrast to the world of chaos that's shattered, it's only made up of 2 pillars. And therefore it's a world of chaos because there's no security there and there's no sustainability there. Unfortunately, the idea of divorce is once again chaos. And therefore this separation between husband and wife brings the wife back into the world of chaos. And therefore it's done through two things, or two ways. One is the death of the husband, and the other is through the concept of divorce, the bill of divorce. One of these two can separate the husband and wife, but this is truly the world of chaos. What does Chassidus say about the concept of the ring? Marriage is a binyan adei ad. In the blessings of marriage, we bless the chassan and kala, that they should have an everlasting edifice amongst the people of Israel. On one hand, we say an edifice, a binyan, which is something finite and physical. On the other hand, we say adei ad, everlasting, which is infinite. Once again, the paradox of uniting the infinite with the finite. The source of this mitzvah, or this custom, is actually found in the writings of Rabbeinu Balei HaTosfos, in the story of Yehuda and Tamar. When Yehuda met Tamar, she asked for his signet ring. And says the Balei HaTosfos that this represents the ring for marriage. And this is therefore one of the sources of getting married via a ring. However, in the ring there are two aspects. There's the ring itself, the circle of the ring, and then the signet of the ring that has the name upon it. And we are told that according to Kabbalah and Chassidus, the ring, which is called taba'as, a ring, represents teva, is the same letters as the word nature. And therefore, the taba'as represents nature. The signet on the ring represents nes, represents the idea of miracle. And this is expounded in the mashal and the parable. It says that there was a king, and his followers made for him a ring, but the ring was missing the signet. And so he placed the signet onto the ring. And similarly, the world was created in 6 days, and it was missing Shabbos. So God created Shabbos. From here we see that the 6 days of the week represent the ring, because the 6 days are the 6 days of nature. Comes along Shabbos and it reveals who the ring belongs to because of the signature. Throughout the 6 days, one may think that the world is nature. It was created by itself. There was a big bang. It came into reality, it came into effect randomly. There was no plan or designer of creation. Comes along Shabbos, the 7th day, it reveals that the world had a creator. There's an eye that sees and an ear that hears. And therefore the story of the ring is found by Yehuda and Tamar, because Yehuda, according to Kabbalah, represents Zah, which is miracle, and Tamar represents the idea of Malchus, which is nature. And here in the ring they both come together and they are united, that in nature one should acknowledge God, that nature should not be a contradiction to God or conceal godliness, but rather our job is to bring Shabbos into the week, is to bring holiness and sanctity into the weekdays as well. And this is the idea of marriage, that we connect a binyan adei ad, an everlasting edifice, into the edifice. And the idea of the everlasting is through, of course, the birth of children. In our service to God, there are two levels. There's the level of ring and the level of signet. The level of ring is teva, nature, and that is to serve God according to intellect and understanding. And then there's the level of the signet ring, the signature on the ring, and that is to go beyond intellect, beyond time and space, and to serve God through self-sacrifice. but ultimately we join the two together, and that is that in everyday nature we should also recognize a person's devotion to God and a person's love to God on a level beyond intellect and understanding. And that is why we give a ring to the Kala under the chuppah, to imply that now she is blessed with the ability of infinity to promulgate and to continue to have children with God's power of infinity, and therefore to have binyan ad de'ad, an everlasting edifice through banim, uvnei banim, children and grandchildren, oiskim b'Torah b'mitzvah, who will study the Torah and go in the ways of God. So to wish you a mazel tov, to find your spouse and to have this blessing of God. And we know that every moment of marriage is really a challenge and really a new marriage, because it's a concept of finity and infinity together. It's two opposites. For two opposites to constantly be in concert, there has to be Almighty God that brings it together. There's a story told that a chassid once came to the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked him, how's it going with shidduchim? So he said, they're giving me different names of girls to go out with, and I'm looking into it. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, you should tell me any girl that is mentioned to you, let me know before you go out with them. The chassid didn't want to bother the Rebbe for these things. Every time a girl is mentioned, to mention to the Rebbe. A few months go by, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe sees him, says, "Nu, how's it going with shidduchim?" He says, "Well, I'm going out with this one and that one and the other one," but nothing happened. The Rebbe said to him, "I told you to tell me who you're going out with, I'll help you." He says, "The Rebbe, I didn't want to bother you." So the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, said like this, let me explain to you what the story is. In heaven, when a young man is about to go out, when he wants to get married, the angels sit together like at a conference table, and they say, "Look, Rab Shmuel wants to get married. Who's good for him?" One angel throws out Sarah, another angel throws out Rachel, another throws out Bracha, another throws out Shterna. So you have all these names. Every name that's mentioned, he has to go through until he finds his proper soulmate. When you come to me, said the Rebbe, and you tell me the name that was mentioned, I'll say, it's not for you. I'll be able to knock it off the list. It had to be mentioned because the angels mentioned it. But you don't have to go out and spend so much time and effort if it is futile, because it will not bring you to the ultimate match. So l'chaim and mazel tov, Hashem should hope that you should find your spouse easily and quickly, and to have a binyan ad diyad, an everlasting edifice amongst the people of Israel, and the ultimate marriage, meheda yishama, bi'are Yehuda v'chutzos Yerushalayim k'el sasam v'k'el simcha, the marriage between God and His people, with the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen.